In the entire universe, the two greatest scientific mysteries are, first of all, the origin of the universe itself, and second of all, the origin of intelligence. Believe it or not, sitting on our shoulders is the most complex object that Mother Nature has created in the known universe. You
So, sitting on your shoulders is the greatest creation Mother Nature has ever created. And why are you so bent on leaving Earth? Investing into technologies that promise you bigger, better things out there, Mr. Michio Kaku.
you have to go at least 24 trillion miles to the nearest star to find a planet that may have life and may have intelligence. And yet our brain only consumes about 20, 30 watts of power, and yet it performs calculations better than any large supercomputer. So it's a mystery.
It's laughable how, there's only whatever, amps or voltage that he said, but somehow he belittled it. I mean, doesn't take a fool to realize that electromagnetism, or just the electric aspect of our existence, is magic in itself. Okay, the end. You don't need to go to school to fracture your mind and succumb to the ways and promises of the world by puzzles made and forgotten. Why forgotten? Because you forget who you are.
Mystery. How is the brain wired up? And if we can figure that out, what can we do with it to enhance our mental capabilities? When you look at the brain,
Okay, if it's the greatest thing that Mother Nature has ever created, what makes you think that you can enhance it? Anyway, go on.
and all the parts of the brain, they don't seem to make any sense at all. The visual part of the brain is way in the back, for example. Why is the brain
Huh.
constructed the way it
Oh, it's
is? Is this nothing but an
hilarious.
accident of
Oh, yeah, it's way in the back. Oh. Either you're playing the fool or you actually believe this nonsense, right? Like, he's gonna he's gonna cry about how the human body and the human is just flawed, right? Somehow we are in the position. But by the way, thanks to Mother Nature. What else are you gonna tell us?
evolution? Well, one way to look at it is through evolution. That is, the back of the brain is the so-called reptilian brain, the most ancient, primitive part of the brain that governs balance, territoriality.
Right, because you believe you were some sort of frog or some sort of nematode at some point, right? When even in the anatomy or the histology of the tissues of the brain, and it's a piece, it's a masterpiece. Okay, connected. There's connections in all kinds of ways, right? But you're gonna stand there, and you're probably sitting down, but you have this white background. Are you in the Matrix, Michio Kaku? Do you need guns? Lots of guns? Well, you certainly will need a gun with the type of mentality you are pushing, okay? You're pushing for an enhancement of the masterpiece that is the human experience, meaning the fleshly deception and the true embodiment of life, okay? That smashes any idea of philosophy of any materialism, because that's what is truth, the way, in the life, okay? Not this empty promise of loving evolution for giving you some swamp frog brain and then eventually, developing a higher, this guy's going to probably say, developing a higher mind. And so therefore, we're meant to enhance it now. Yes, yes, listen to me.
Mating. And so the very back of the brain is also the kind of brain that you find in reptiles. And when I was a child, I would go to the science museum and look at the snakes sometimes, and they would stare back at me. And I would wonder, what are they thinking about? Well, I think now I know. What they're thinking about was, is this person lunch? Then we have the center part of the
What happened to your hand, dude? Did you get into a fight? Oh no, I'm sure you just fell down some stairs tying your shoes, right? Or you were playing knives and you totally suck at it. Or something else. Okay, I mean, maybe you just have dry, bad skin, itching. That's why you think your body's flawed, because you're filled with them and you just want to deceive yourself that you have nothing to do with it. Nothing. You're just dealt a shitty card, right? And you must overcome it with power and wealth and influence. Leading the masses to their slaughter, right? Ultimately, because it's the imprisonment of the mind. He's telling you, look, let's move on.
The brain going forward, and that's the so-called monkey brain, the mammalian brain, the brain of emotions, the brain of social hierarchies. And then finally, the front of the brain is the human brain, especially the prefrontal cortex. This is where rational thinking is.
Okay, so show me the person that doesn't have any of these things, right? Because obviously we have the brain, and there wasn't one step of the way where you lacked one part of it. You always had a brain, okay? Even in your billions of millions of years theory, like that, there was still a brain. You could say, oh, there was a larger brain, and then it got smaller. They still had a brain, okay, and it had its components, and it did what it was supposed to do, right? So does your brain, right? And if you had an accident which made a certain part of your brain damaged it, then okay, you might see some erratic behavior, maybe dominant in a particular way or something, but that just means you smashed your head, okay? Come on, Michio Kaku, what are you talking about?
And when you ask yourself a question, where am I anyway? The answer is right behind your forehead. That's where you really are. Well, I have a...
Oh. So of course all the new agers are like, yeah, your third eye, yeah, that's where it is. Yeah, right? This guy's mocking everything. He's mocking it all. So he believes in evolution, obviously, pushes it as, like, oh, everybody knows this. Well, let me tell you guys, you have this, Get this, guys. You have this reptilian part of the brain, right? Yeah, but you could say, oh, just because it's deeper inside or part of your inside, like, oh, it's a reptilian blood system. We have reptilian arteries. We have reptilian capillaries, and like, what are you talking here? Like, come on, Michu, what do you got?
The theory of consciousness, which tries to wrap it all up together. There have been about 20,000 or so papers written about consciousness and no consensus. Never in the history of science have so many people devoted so much time to produce so little. Well, I'm a
Right, ridiculing others always. Okay, this guy. I mean, dude, have you forgotten your part of what they represent? Come on. Are you somehow, all of a sudden the only authority? Academic authority, might I say. This guy's, that's his level. But obviously he's become some sort of mouthpiece. He looks kind of wizardry. He's probably a sorcerer. Of course he is. Look at him. What is he really pushing? He's pushing to confuse you, right? To be like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Humans are totally flawed. And of course they have human behavior as their proof, right? Oh, just look at the way we treat each other. Does that show that we are a perfect creation? Oh, Michu, were you brainwashed as well? Or do you know that what you're saying is a lie? Okay?
physicist. And when we physicists look at a mysterious object, the first thing we try to do is to create a model of this object in space. And then we hit the play button and run it forward in time. This is how Newton was able to come up with the theory of gravity. This is how Einstein came up with relativity.
Yeah, he put something in a tube and made it go forward in a experiment.
So I tried to use this in terms of the human brain and evolution. So what I'm saying is I have a new theory of consciousness based on evolution, and that is consciousness is the number of feedback loops required to create a model of your position in space with relationship to other organisms and finally in relationship to time. So think of the consciousness of a thermostat. I believe that even a low...
I would just say that's just, being aware. Because I think you're going to try to link being aware in like ordinary things as being conscious, okay? Even that word conscious has become meaningless.
lowly thermostat has one unit of consciousness. That is, it senses the temperature around it. And then we have a flower. A flower has maybe 10 units of consciousness. It has to understand the temperature, the weather, humidity, where gravity is pointing. And then finally we go to the reptilian brain, which I call level 1.
Okay, this is the flaw in this man's brain, okay? Something has burst a nut. Something. Okay. I just have to get that out of me. Look at this sadness, okay? This man is sad. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't know if it's sad or just believement of hoping other people see what I see.
Consciousness. And reptiles basically have a very good understanding of their position in space, especially because they have to lunge out and grab prey. Then we have level 2 consciousness, the motor consciousness.
Wait, how does this guy how does this guy know the levels, right? Like he said flowers have 10 units. Now the reptilian has more, and all of a sudden he's moving up and up, right, to where we apparently are going to have the most, right? Okay, I don't know, I'm guessing, but says who? Okay, says Michio Kaku, or says the 20,000 of papers that you said produced nothing, or just saith, the doctrine of evolution. I'm gonna bet on that and just say you're hoping other people will believe you, because you don't know. The only thing you know, and the only thing I know, is that you have a fleshly experience, and you're gonna probably try to get out everything out of it as you can. When the promises of the world are but the dust, that blows away, and in your way of thinking probably creates other stars, but we really know that that means the material is purely, in our perspective, the dust which the spirit animates. Okay, you have no idea. If you do, then you're a liar. Okay, and you are going against everything that life that you have represents, trying to recreate or enhance to it. You want to add a particular set of variables that will somehow enhance humanity. According to who? Oh, well, according to what science says is ideal. Yeah, right.
Consciousness. The consciousness of emotions, social hierarchies. Where are we in relationship to the tribe? And then where are we as humans? As humans, we are at level 3. We run simulations into the future. Animals apparently don't do this. They don't plan to hibernate. They don't plan the next day's.
Yeah, they just know. Man, do you know? I don't think so. And if you do, again, you're a liar, because an animal simply is, okay? Just, and if you actually believed yourself to be an animal, which I'm sure you probably do, then you're going against being what an animal is, right? And why is that? Oh, could it be that there is something else that determines what you call consciousness is?
Agenda. They have no conception of tomorrow to the best of our ability, but that's what our brain does. Our brain is a prediction machine. And so when we look at the evolution from the reptilian brain to the mammalian brain to the prefrontal cortex, we realize that it's.
Yeah, you can predict yourself not having to get into an accident, or
the process of understanding our position in space with respect to others, that is emotions, and finally running simulations into the future.
that's how you expand consciousness, by creating simulations into the future. I feel severely let down, even for this guy who I've seen before and other stuff, but it looks like he was tired. Maybe he just had a bad day. Maybe he just didn't give it his full blown, you know, self into it. He probably didn't do the right sacrifice. Okay, I'll end it there.